Hello, hello. Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. Going to get started here in a few moments. Just wanted to give some people a little more opportunity to sign in. Okay, hope everyone can hear me okay. All right, well, we have a lot of material to cover in the hour, so I'd like to begin. This is the basic AutoTag training webinar. Today is Wednesday, March 14th, 2018. My name is Eric Johnson, and I am a technical support engineer here at Windward Studios. I've been here for a few months now, and maybe you have interacted with me through help desk tickets. Okay, you may have noticed that when you logged into the GoToMeeting webinar, you have a toolbar. The arrow that you see on the screen is pointing to the raise your hand icon. If any time during the webinar you have a question or are experiencing technical difficulties, please feel free to click that button to ask your question or notify me of anything that's wrong. The prompts that I have for my questions in chat are on my other screen, so I may not see them immediately. I usually wait until the Q&A session at the end to answer any questions, but I will keep an eye on these two as I go along, just in case there are any issues that do come up. Okay, see one more person logging in, so I'm just going to give 1 second before I say anything else so they can catch up. Okay, again, this is a basic introduction to AutoTag. We assume that you haven't used AutoTag. Maybe you've installed it, but you probably haven't built any templates. You don't know too much about the interface, how to add tags to your documents, your Excel spreadsheets or PowerPoint slides. So we'll go over the very basic fundamental things to do with AutoTag. Next week, there's an intermediate training webinar scheduled, which will cover more advanced features. But for today, the machine I'm working on is Windows 10 operating system, which is 64-bit. I'm also using Office 2016, which is 64-bit. It's okay to use 32 or 62 or 64-bit. We recommend using 64-bit because this allows you to utilize all the memory on your machine when you're building a template and gathering data. Because sometimes you're pulling in a lot of data and it requires a lot of memory. I think 32-bit only allows you 2 gigs of memory. 64-bit, you can utilize all you have on your hardware. And the version of AutoTag I'm using today is 15.2.224.0. This is a version that was just released last Friday. Okay, I want to give you a high-level overview of what we'll be discussing today. We'll take a look at what's within AutoTag and the AutoTag Manager tabs. We'll create a template using the for each and out tags to create a couple of lists. These 2 tags, the for each and out tags, are the most popular tags that you'll use. We'll go over input parameters, or what we consider variables, which are used to filter before you generate output. We'll go over a couple of data source wizards, more specifically SQL and XML. We'll cover how to generate a report, how to get some help, and if we have time, we'll go over pods. Okay, we're first gonna take a look at what's in the AutoTag Manager tab. You're not gonna access this tab that often. It just kind of gets your environment set up. We'll go over the data source button. We'll cover the find and replace tool, how to update your license key. So if you're using a temporary key and want to update it to your permanent key, we'll show you how to do that. We'll discuss the About button and where to get samples and other tutorials after this webinar. All right, let's take a look at the AutoTag Manager tab. I'm going to go ahead and open up a blank Word document. It opened on my other screen, so I'm just going to slide it over here. Okay. And when you install AutoTag, you get these two tabs, the AutoTag tab and the AutoTag Manager tab. Right now, we'll be discussing this AutoTag Manager tab. So over here on the left in the data section, there's a couple of buttons I like to point out. The data source button, this button connects you to your data. So if you're using JSON, XML, SQL, or OData, this allows you to connect to those. And those are the four types that we support. To the right of it is the pod buttons. We'll try to cover that at the end, but you can also get more information on these in our wiki. There's also in the data section, the generate code button. So this is handy for the developer types. It shows you how to generate from the template that you're working on the code for our Windward engine. So if you're using .NET, Java, or the RESTful engines, it shows you the code and how to reference the template and generate the output. Okay, under this tool section is the find replace button. Go ahead and select this. This is an easy way to update all the tags in your templates. Sometimes this is forgotten about, but if you have a lot of tags in your template and you need to make a change, instead of going through them one by one, you can use this find and replace tool. All right, so say that, for example, that you created a data source and you gave it a nickname, and it's you decided that it's not informative enough. So you could use this tool. You could type in the old nickname, put in the new nickname that you want to give it. You can have it change for all of the tags. You can deselect them all, change only specific tags if you want. Say you have a couple of data sources and you only want to change things, and here is the nickname. But you can also change it on data sources, credentials, format. So this is a really good way to replace content tags within your template. Okay, next thing I want to show you is in this options section, the About button. So this window gives you information on the AutoTag that you're using. Here, I'm using version 15.2.224.0, and I'm also using a 64-bit Word. The license that I'm using is good through version 16. It indicates to you which version you have here. So if you're using, if you have your license key and it's set here at 15 and you upgrade to version 16, that version isn't out yet, but it will be coming out soon. But say you do upgrade and you see here that your license version is 15, then you'll need to obtain a new license key to use for the version 16. So it tells you what version your license key is valid to. This is a super key that I'm using, so I can run it on 50 systems, but you'll probably have something more related to your specific setup. It also lets you know when the key expires. And one other thing, over here on the right, this is my IP address, and this lists all the people, all the IP addresses that are using this the specific key that I'm using at the time I clicked the about button. So I'm the only one using this key, and so I'm the only one here. But if there was multiple people using this license key, when you click about, you could see all the other IP addresses listed here. Okay, that's the about button. Next is the license button. This is where you update your key. So say if you have a temporary key and you want to update it to your permanent key, or if you have a version 15 key and you're going to upgrade to version 16, well, you could, through this license button, you would delete the key that's in here and then Control V to paste in the new key. And then click OK, and then AutoTag knows that now you're using this new updated license. All right, next thing I'd like to discuss is this Getting Started Guide section. Today, watching the webinar is the best first step to learning AutoTag. Second step, I would say, is going to our Windward tutor. This gives you step-by-step instructions on how to do something. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and select the Windward tutor button, and it opens up. It opened up on my other screen, so I'm just going to drag it over here. Let me expand this so everyone can see it better. All right, once it's open, this gives you a bunch of different topics that you can choose from. You can look at AutoTag basics, tutorials, connecting to your data tools, and data wizards. I'm going to just select AutoTag basics for right now. Then once you select the topic, there are some subtopics that you can choose from. And this, for the AutoTag basics topic, we have inserting a tag for each tag and accessing sample templates. I'm going to go ahead and select this inserting a tag subtopic. And here you'll find the objectives and the procedures to follow if you're learning on how to insert a tag. Another good thing that we do for here is we also give you gifts for all the steps. So if first step, open the AutoTag Manager ribbon, we give you the steps instructions here, but then you can also click on this, show me how, and he will show you a nice little gift. And we do have a lot of gifts on a lot of the steps. So not only do we have the written word to describe, we also have a gift to go along with it. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and close this. So the second step to learning AutoTag, what I would suggest is this samples button. So I'm gonna go ahead and click that. And when I click it, it opens up the Getting Started guide. Within this guide, I want to focus on this additional section. And within this, it contains SQL and XML tag tutorials. We will be including JSON, but we're not fully there yet. For this example, we're going to focus on the SQL data source. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And it was already selected. And if I click on something else, it will show. But I'm going to choose the SQL one. And for any tag that you can utilize in AutoTag, we have a sample. So we have samples for bookmarks, charts, conditional formatting, for each tags, alt tags, link tags. So for any tag you can utilize in AutoTag, we have a sample. So I'm going to go ahead and click, select this if tag. And when it opens, here's a step-by-step procedure on how to use the if tag, how to use the else tag. The good thing about this samples document is that it's connected to our Northwind SQL server database. This is open to the public, so anyone can access it. So when you're reviewing these templates and you go to create output, you will actually generate output from the SQL sample. So a good second step. Okay, I'm going to get back to the slides for a minute. We just went over the AutoTag Manager tab. Next, we'll be discussing the AutoTag tab. So here's where you'll actually create the template. I'll walk you through one today. It'll be a very easy template using some for each and out tags. But basically, I'll show you how to select the tag, how to insert using wizards for SQL and XPath, how to create input parameters, how to generate output, and how to pull your data in using the data bin. Okay, now for an overview of what a for each tag is. A for each tag does three things. First, it fetches a set of data or the specific data that you want to utilize within your data source. Second, it repeats that data through an iterative loop. For example, if you're trying to create a list. And third, it repeats the contents between the beginning and ending for each tag. The ending for each tag just tells AutoTag when to stop repeating contents with each iteration of the loop. This for each tag is a tag that you will more than likely use regularly. The most common tag, though, is the out tag. The out tag is basically short for output. So when you're trying to display data from your data source within your template, when you're ready to display a number, an image, text, this is when you'll use the out tag. Again, tags are simply placeholders for your data. The for each tag doesn't display information. It gathers data that you want to use, loops through the data, and repeats the content between the tags. The out tag is the tag that actually displays the data that you want your users to see. Okay, I'm going to go back to a Word. I'm going to go and open another blank Word document on this screen this time. All right, so the first thing to do when creating a template is to connect to the data. So within the AutoTag Manager tab, I'm going to go ahead and click this Data Sources button, which will open up the connection editor. Over here on the left is my active and recent inactive connections. Whenever you create a connection, AutoTag will save it for you in the recent inactive. And when you are actually connected to a data source, you'll see it listed here under active. Right now, since we're beginning, it is empty. So let's go ahead and create a new data source to connect to. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this new tab. And I want to minimize these options for a second. So when we give you the ability to connect to different type of data sources. So here you can connect to Salesforce, a sales point list. You can connect to JSON, OData, XML, XML, XPath 1.0 and XPath 2.0, and also SQL. So there's a lot of SQL options here. This is because I have a lot of drivers installed on my system to assist other customers with their templates. You can install different drivers depending on your SQL environment that you're using. Our wiki provides step-by-step instructions on installing them and also where to obtain the proper drivers. But for today, I'm going to connect to the Northwind SQL Server database. So I'm going to go ahead and select this last option under SQL Server database. Now, when you select it, you can tell which database that you're connecting to because the type is listed right here underneath the nickname. And the nickname is what you'll want to do be one of the first things you do when creating a new connection. You want to give it a name, a nickname that you can help recognize. So for this example, since we're connecting to the Northwind SQL database, I'm going to call this Northwind SQL. And please note that there cannot be any spaces in the nickname. All right, now that I have entered a nickname, next I'll want to enter the server that I want to connect to. I'm going to go ahead and connect to the mssql.windward.net server. This server is open to the public. So in the server field, I will type mssql.windward.net. All right, instead of selecting the database right now, let's move over to this credential center. Here, I want to supply a username and password to access this public server. So for the username and password, they are both demo. So I'm going to go ahead and enter demo and demo for the password. Okay, a few other things I want to show you here. Display table, I'll give you a bunch of different options, user owned, and user and system. If you hover over them, you can get understanding of what the differences between the three are. For this example, I'm going to go ahead and select the user. Over here on the right, you'll see a read-in metadata. It is checked by default. There's only possibly a few times that you don't want to pull in all your metadata from your database schema, but this is a good option to keep checked. Okay, now that I've entered in my credentials, I want to select the database that I want to utilize. So with the server entered and the credentials, I can go ahead and click this drop down because the AutoTag knows that I have access to these databases based upon the credentials I have entered. So as we're going to be discussing the Northwind, I'm going to scroll down here and choose the Northwind database. This is how you set up a connection manually. Your DBA may provide you with a connection string. If that's the case, instead of manually entering all this information, you can come down here, click on Use Connection String, and then paste what the DBA gave you into the connection string, and that's the same as actually going through here and filling out all this information. And also I want to point out there's the root directory down here. This is for when you're using relative paths within your tags. So if you're referencing sub-templates or images that are on a shared network, you can provide the root directory for AutoTag to use to locate those sub-templates or images. But I have everything here that I want to fill out for my connection. So I'm going to go ahead and test to make sure I can actually connect to this database. Click this test button. And down here in green is good. It says data source test succeeded. Please click connect, update, or add to save your changes. Now that I know it works, I'm going to select add so I can add this data source. So when I click on add, you notice under here in the connections tab, I now have my Northwind SQL connection, and it is active. All right, now that I'm connected to my Northwind database, I'm going to close this connection editor. So when I close this, you'll notice over here on the right, AutoTag automatically shows the database schema. These are all the tables and the views that I have access to based upon the credentials that I entered in the connection string. You won't see stored procedures here. We'll show you that a little bit later. You can access those through the data bin. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead now and create a table. Let's go ahead and create a basic table. So I'm gonna, up here in the Word ribbon, I'm gonna select Insert, choose Table. Let's make let's say a 3 columns by 2 rows table. All right, now that the table's here, I need to use AutoTag to start tagging up my document. So let's decide what data we want to display. For this example, I'm gonna be focusing on the categories table right here. So let me expand it for you. And categories table consists of 4 columns: category ID, category name, description, and picture. So for this table, we want to display a few of these columns. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to display the category name. Let's display the description and also the picture. All right, now that we have a header row, we need to supply data from the categories table. So I'm going to select right under the category name column and go over here to my AutoTag tab, and I'm going to click on the tags button. Now, when you click on this, these are the tags that you can insert into your template. And when you hover over them, you will see a short description of what the tag does. I'm going to go ahead and select this for each tag. And wherever I had my cursor is where the tag will be entered. So I had it right here in the category name, so it entered the for each tag right here. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight this for each tag to point out a few things first. So up here in the AutoTag tab, you'll notice, you may notice that there is a for each tag properties section listed right here. So whenever you select the tag, this is a good way to know which tag you selected. I added only a for each, and so by selecting it, you can see that I'm working with the for each tag. There's a couple of fields up here that I want to discuss, the nickname and the variable name. By default, AutoTag provides you with a variable name for the tag. This one, they labeled it as var name1. Let's go ahead and change it to something a little more recognizable for what we're doing. So let's call it var categories, since we're dealing with the categories table. So this variable that we enter right here, this is the name that AutoTag will use to reference this tag. We can also give the tag a nickname. So when I clicked off of it, it asked me, do I want to update all the tags? I'm going to say no, because I just have one tag. So after the variable, we give you another field, the nickname field. So say this field's helpful to describe what tag you're working with. So if you're new and you just come onto the company and this is the first time you're reviewing this template, well, this is a simple template, but the template you could be reviewing could be very long. Nicknames are a good way to help you understand what this tag is representing. So this is a categories table, I'm going to give it a good, clear nickname that I am working with categories as well. And when I press enter, you'll see that the category tag, the for each tag changed from for each to now categories. All right, now let's select the data that we want to use. So there's a shortcut in the tag properties section called data tree. I'm going to go ahead and open this with that selected. And here is a list of all the tables, all the views, and also the store procedures that you have access to. They're not listed here over on the right in the AutoTag data bin. The store procedures you can find in the data tree. But let's go ahead and expand the tables and categories because we're working with categories. So I'm going to go ahead and select the whole categories. And as you can see by hovering over it, I've selected the categories ID, category name. It's bringing back all the information within the categories table. So if I click preview up here with this selected, I can ensure this way I can be certain to know what I'm returning from the for each. You can see from the preview that I am bringing back the correct data that I want to use. Category ID, because I'm bringing back all of the category or information, but here the category name, description, and picture. So I use the preview quite often to make sure I'm selecting the correct data that I want to see before I generate the output. So almost anytime I add a tag to the document, I am previewing it to make sure I'm working with the correct data. So the for each tag is getting the data that we want to utilize. Now, to display the data, we'll need to use the alt tag. So I'm going to place my cursor right here to the right of the for each tag. Then I go back to the tags button. And this time I'm going to add an alt tag. Okay, now with that added, now I need to select what needs to be displayed in the alt tag. So I've highlighted the alt tag, and I'm going to go back up here to the data tree, select that, and as this is category name, we're going to select category name. But before I do that, I want to just show you something. So this time, this data tree looks a little different. Before, when we came in, we had our tables, our views, and our stored procedures. Well, AutoTag knows that you're referencing a for each tag here. So you'll see up here at the top the var category name and all the data within this for each tag. These are the values that you want to choose for the alt tags within this for each loop, the ones under var categories. If you were to come here and select category name, what you would be doing is only displaying the first name in the first category name over and over and over again. To get each record, you would actually have to use the var category, the for each loop variables, and then choose the column that you want to display. So under var categories, since we're going to be populating the category name, I'm going to select the category name. With that highlighted, I'm going to preview it to make sure I'm getting what I want. And category name, beverages. Yep. Okay, good. Next, let's add an alt tag for the description. Click here in the description column. Choose tags. Alt tag. I'm going to select the tag again. Go up here to the data tree. And this time, again, under the var categories, we want the description. Last column, picture. Back here to the tags, alt tag. I'm going to select the one that was just added, up here at the data tree, and choose picture. All right, almost done. Last thing we need to do is add an end for each tag. The end for each tag, again, tells AutoTag when to stop looping through the content between the beginning and ending tags. So whenever you add a table, you'll want to put the end for each tag outside of the table. It's logical to think that you should put it right after the last alt tag in the table, but in actuality, so you don't create a blank row at the end of your list, you'll want to put the end for each outside of the table. So let's go ahead and do that. With my cursor here, go back up to the tags and add an end for each. Again, this is going to tell AutoTag when to stop looping through this data, when to stop displaying the category name, description, and picture for each record. All right, a cool thing about AutoTag is that we support about 90% of Word's functionality. We don't support Word art, so we don't suggest using it in your templates. You could use input tags to bring in your images and logos instead of Word art. So since we're using Word, we can style the table any way we want to. So I'm going to go ahead and select the table. Up here under Table Tools, click Design. All right, let's keep the header row and banded rows checked. We don't need a first column, so I'm going to uncheck this. Now let's go ahead and give it a style as well. Click this drop down and let's give it this green style. All right, that's how easy it is to style my tables. You can use the full use of Works functionality to create the tables, to have them display how you like it. So now let's output this to see how it looks. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click on this drop down for output. So these are the different forms of output that we give you. You can output the docx, HTML, PDF, printer, or RTF. PPTX, PowerPoint, and XLSX Excel are grayed out because they don't cross platforms. You actually would have to use Excel or PowerPoint for outputs of these types. The default is docx. So I'm going to go ahead and select docx. So now ask me, do I want to save this? I'm going to go ahead and say yes. I'm going to save it to my desktop. Save. Yes. All right. Let's compare. I'm going to split the screen so we can see both. I'm going to close this AutoTag data bin. Okay, over here on the left is the template, and over here on the right is the output. So you may have noticed that the picture column isn't showing an image, it's just showing the raw data from the database. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to correct this before we move on. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and select this picture tab, this picture alt tag. Again, you can tell that I'm selecting the alt tag by this alt tag properties up here. I can give this tag a type by selecting this drop down up here in the type. Offer you different types, base 64 templates, bitmaps, dates, hex templates, numbers, PDF templates, text. For image, we're going to go ahead and select bitmap. When I do that, you can see that the alt tag has changed to an icon. You can even change the size of this by using this size drop down, and you can change the size to be specified height, width, fill width, specified bitmap. I'm going to go ahead and choose specified width. Okay, as I said before, I like to preview a lot. So before generate output to see how this looks, let's go ahead and preview this picture alt tag. So with it selected, I'm going to come up here and click preview. Great. Yes, it's actually returning an image, just what we want. Cool. All right, let's close this. So let's output this to make sure our picture displays. Yes to save. Split the screen. And here you can see we have the images this time for the picture column. Here's all the beverages category names. Here's all the descriptions and the pictures. All right, cool. So next thing I want to point out is that that when you connect to a data source, you don't need to connect to just one. You can connect to multiple data sources as well as different types, say XML or SQL. So I'm going to go ahead and add some text here to the template. Add XML table to view. Okay, click up here in the AutoTag manager, and here, when we look at the data sources this time, you'll see a green circle. This means I am connected to a data source already. I'm going to go ahead and open up the connection editor. Again, you can see that I am actively connected to the Northwind SQL database. Now let's go ahead and create a new connection, this time for XML. So I'm going to go up here, click New again. We have two options, XML XPath 2.0 and XPath 1.0. XPath 2.0 gives you the latest and greatest functions compared to 1.0. I'm going to go ahead and select 2.0 and move over here. Again, the type, you can see that I am setting up a connection for XML XPath 2.0. So again, let's go ahead and provide this with a nickname. We'll call this one Northwind XML. Remember, no spaces. Okay, you can either type in the URL here, or you can browse to a file, by clicking on this folder icon. I'm going to connect to one of our sample databases, the Northwind XML database. So when you install AutoTag, you get in this documents folder, the AutoTag folder. I'm going to go ahead and select this. In this folder, you'll have data and sample templates. Let's look at the templates for a minute. I'm going to now come down here and choose all files. So we have a ton of Word sample templates set up for you. When you install AutoTag, you get a little over 200 sample templates installed. We're constantly cleaning these up all the time, so you may see some added and you may see some removed. So there's Word sample templates. There's also Excel templates, Podified or Pod templates, PowerPoint, and tag templates. These are also what you can get to by using that sample buttons that I showed you earlier in the AutoTag Manager tab. But since we're going to be connecting to the Northwind XML database, I'm going to go ahead and change this back to XML. I'm going to go back to the AutoTag folder, and I'm going to select the data folder this time. And so here are all my XML databases that I can connect to. We're going to be connecting to this one right here, the Northwind Data XML. So I selected it, clicked Open. So once I selected this, I can add an authentication protocol, I can add a schema if I wanted to. This is all I want to do right now, so let's go ahead and test it. And data source test succeeded. So good. I'm able to connect. Let's add it. Now you'll notice in the active column, I have two data sources. The Northwind SQL one that we set up earlier, and now the Northwind XML XPath 2.0. You can connect to as many as you need. I've heard, I think, of up to 9 XML files being referenced at once, but we're only going to be connecting to 2 today, and we are connected to them both. So I'm going to go ahead and close this connection editor. All right. When we do that, again, the AutoTag data bin opens, and now you'll notice that it looks a little different. We still have our tables and our views from the Northwind SQL database, but now we also have our parent and child nodes from the Northwind data XML file. Okay, there's another option that I want to point out to you that makes things a lot easier when you're creating a template. Let's say you need, let's work with the employees this time. Let's say you need all the employee nodes, all these nodes from this employee's parent node. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and drag this employee parent node over here to the template and drop it. When I do this, you'll see it's selecting all the nodes for me within the parent node. I'm going to go ahead and deselect them all down here. Okay, and for this example, let's say we just want to display the first name, last name, but we want the first name to come first, so we can go over here, change the order, first name, last name. Let's say we want the hire date, and let's also add the country. All right, with the columns we want selected, I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And AutoTag will automatically create the table for me, which includes all the tags, the for each tag, the alt tags, and the end for each tag. Let's add a couple of spaces here between these words to style it up a little. All right, let's make sure that we're actually pulling the data that we want to see. So I'm going to go ahead and select the employees for each tag and come up to the AutoTag tab and click Preview. All right, this preview looks a little different this time from the SQL preview because this is XML and we have nodes as opposed to table columns, as opposed to tables that have columns formatted in a specific way. But you can still see that these are returning all of the records. So here we have a record for Nancy. Here we have a record for Andrew, and so on. So good. We are returning the data that we want. So I'm going to close this. Now let's preview the first name. Nancy. Yep, we are getting the first name. So that's exactly what we want. And again, we can style this table any way we want. I'm going to go ahead and select it. In the design, we want to keep header row, banded row. I don't need a first column. This time, let's change the color. Let's give it the blue look. All right. Now let's output it to see what the style will actually look like. Yes to save. I'm going to split the screen. Close the data, AutoTag data bin. This on the left is the template. Here on the right is the output. We still have our categories table, but down here now is our XML table. You may have noticed that the hire date, the format's a little difficult to read. This is the raw data that we're receiving from the XML file. We can make this a little more reader friendly. Let me show you how to do that. Let's close the output, expand this again, and then go ahead and select the hire date. up here in the AutoTag properties, I'm going to click this Format Data button. So this is similar to Excel, where we can format the date in specific ways. Let's go ahead and choose the long date format. I like that one. Once you have the one you want, click Apply, Close. Let's go ahead and preview it now to make sure we're returning the format that we'd like. May 1st, that looks good. Now I'll put it one more time. Let's split the screen. All right, and so here you can see we have the hire date we want. We can even expand this, or could have done this from the template, but here you can see we have the hire date in the format that we're looking for. So, all right, that's great. That's how we display all the information from the tables. But what happens if we want to provide filtering before we generate the output? Well, you can do this using input parameters. So within the AutoTag tab over here on the left, I'm going to go ahead and select Input Parameters button. So here's where I can define parameters. I'm going to add one, and let's give it a name, category. Yeah, let's call it category, since we're working with the category table. Press Enter. Here you can choose whether this is required by default. I'm going to make it required, so let's go ahead and leave this checkbox. You can give it a default option. Let's go ahead and type in confections. And you can also provide a type. We're going to use text, but there's others of type of inputs: currency, date, integer, number, select, and text. Select gives you an AutoTag drop-down list to choose the values that you want. But for this example, we're going to go ahead and go with text. So I'm going to choose that. Save it. Now, how do we utilize that input parameter to filter out the data? So since we're using a category input parameter, I'm going to go ahead and select this categories for each tag in the categories table. Up above this, in the tag properties, is this wizard button. I'm going to go ahead and select this, which opens up the SQL wizard. Over here on the left side, it has all the tables and views that I have access to. In this center section, here are the columns of what we're going to be of the columns. We have the category ID, category name, description, and picture. This is what we'll be gathering. Below this is the sort. So what if I want to sort by a category name? How do I do that? So you would do that by coming over here to the category table. Again, we want to sort by categories name. So I'm just going to highlight this and drag it down to sort. When I let go, that's how you can sort by columns. Just drag and drop. Over here on the right is our data tree pane. So you can see the values that we're returning. So if we did want to switch this from category name A to Z to Z to A, all you'd have to do here is left click this and choose sort Z to A. And when I do this, you'll notice on the right, the data preview pane, the category name will now change from Z to A. I do want to keep it A to Z, so let's change it back. Okay, below this is the filter section or the SQL where clause. This is used to filter out data based on the input parameter that we just created. To do that, we'll go ahead and click here to add a group, and we'll add a filter. We need to select how we want to filter. So I'm going to go ahead and select the node, and we want to filter by category name. So I'm going to choose category name here. We give you different options on how to filter. You can filter based on equals to, not equal to, not like, contains. For this example, we're going to keep it equal to. And over here, I'm going to go ahead and click this. This is sets the value. And off on the right is through the drop down, we can see a list of all the parameters that we created. We only created one, which is categories. So I'm going to select that. All right, and over here, again, the preview window now is only showing one record because we set a default as confections. So this is why this is only showing one. And down here is actually the SQL query. This section is grayed out. You can't make changes to this section. You can update this through the tag editor when you want to update this select statement. We'll show you this, updating this in the intermediate training. But as you can see, we are dynamically adding the where clause to filter based on category name and the input parameter that we have set up. And the order by is also still here. Kind of cool. It helps you learn SQL statement syntax by just dragging and dropping certain fields. Now that we've set up this input parameter to equal the category name within the category table, I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Now what happens when we generate output? Here we get a prompt for the variable. There could be many variables, but right now only have one variable being prompted for. We set it as confection. Let's go ahead and change it to beverages. Beverages, click OK. Now the output is only showing beverages. Is only showing the beverage record. Before we showed all the categories, now we are showing only the beverage records based upon the input parameter. Just notice the time, it's getting close to 9. I'm running a little late, sorry about that. I do have one more thing I want to show you, and then we can continue to the question and answer period. But I do want to show you setting up filters, static filters. Let's go ahead and close this. So we updated this categories table dynamically with input parameters. Now I'll show you how to update this employees table to show static filtering. So I'm going to go ahead and select this for each tag. Click up here on the wizard button. So this is the XPath wizard. It has a different look simply because we're using XPath. But at the bottom here, you'll notice that XPath is being generated dynamically, just like SQL right now is just returning all of the records from the root employees. So what happens if you want to sort or order by? You do that by clicking this. Click here to add an order by. Let's say we want to sort by first name. So I'm going to go ahead and choose first name. Click OK. And here you'll notice first name ascending is Adam. And then we have Ann and Janet and so forth. If you want to change this to go in the opposite direction, you click it, choose descending. And as you can see now, first name is Stephen and then Robert, and we're descending down to Nancy. Change this back to ascending. So in XPath, you really don't have the order by option, but we give you the ability in AutoTag to order by. So now what if you want to filter statically? No matter how many times we output the XML data, maybe we want to see those employees from a specific country. So let's go ahead and add a filter. So let's click here to add a group and add a condition. So I'm going to select the node that I want to filter by. We just talked about country, so I'm going to go ahead and choose country. Here again, you could, the filter could be equal to, not equal to, greater than, less than, give you different options here, or we want to keep it equal to. And let's say we want to filter statically. So we want to filter all the countries, all the records for people in the UK country. So you would just enter UK in there. And again, you can see it was updated dynamically. All employees with the country of UK, and we'll order in by first name. So that's how you'll set up a static filter using the XPath wizard. So I'm going to click OK here. Let's go ahead and output this to see what it looks like. Okay, let's choose seafood this time, just to show it switching up. All right. Okay, this top table, we chose seafood to display, so we're only showing the seafood. And down here in our XML table, we're only now displaying those records whose country is listed as UK. So this is how you filter your data, either statically or dynamically. Let's go back to the PowerPoint slides. We're just 2 minutes over. Just going to be wrapping it up, and so if there is any questions, please feel free to enter them in either the questions or the chat. So we talked about SQL and XML wizards, sorting ascending and descending, and using dynamic filters with SQL. We talked about the XPath query language and using static filters to filter the XML file. Input parameters, we went over that allows users to add input just before generating output. We showed you how to set up a default value, how to reference the parameter in a tag, and what the prompt for the value looks like. All right, here are the resources that you can utilize. I suggest that you take a screenshot of this while we're on this slide. Wiki.windward.net, this is our knowledge base. We're constantly updating Wiki. We're actually revamping it completely. You'll see a new Wiki come out in possibly the next couple of months. This is where you can get a lot of information on how to do specific tasks. If you can't find what you're looking for, you can reach out to our amazing support team through support.windward.net, or you could email them at support@windward.net. If you need to access your keys, you can access those through store.windward.net. And if you would like to see anything added or changed to the product, you can submit your request through ideas.windward.net. All right, next week I'll be hosting the intermediate training, and we'll be going over advanced for each tags, if-else tags, switch case tags, show you conditional formatting, adding functions and equations, importing, and Excel differences. All right, we've come to that point where I'm going to answer any questions that have been asked. So I'm going to check on the questions for a moment. Okay, there is one question. You mentioned pods at the beginning. Can you please explain a little about them? Yes, certainly. Thanks for bringing that up. I was hoping I'd have a minute or so to discuss that. So pods are a great feature within AutoTag. It allows you to reuse content. So if you have a header or a footer that you use constantly throughout your documents, instead of generating the information that's displayed in the header or footer each time, you can use pods. And what that does is you could save, like, say, this header section. And then when you're creating a new template, instead of creating the header each time, you can just drag and drop from the pod bin into the template. And when you are dropping a pod into a template, it brings in everything, the setup of the tags, the styling of the setup. However the pod was saved is how it's brought into the document. Very useful when you are trying to get a template up. It gets you up and working on it very quick. We have a lot more information on pods in our wiki. If you would like to understand more on how to use it, I suggest visiting the wiki and looking at some of those pod reference materials. All right. Well, there will be a survey at the end of this webinar. Please feel free to fill it out truthfully. Any feedback that you can provide will help me and any attendees with the next webinar. So please feel free to answer it honestly. Thank you for joining today. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you and goodbye.